All right, so are you ready to travel back in time with me today? Because we're going deep into Norse mythology.
Oh yeah, sign me up.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. We are going specifically into the creation myth, and we're going to be pulling from Norse mythology, creation, gods, and Odin's wisdom.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it's a really great book, and, Norse mythology, it's just so wild, so imaginative.
Right.
It's just epic battles, complex gods and goddesses.
And a lot of just plain weird stuff.
Oh, yeah, yeah, a healthy dose of just plain weird, so.
It's fantastic.
It is. It's really, really cool. And it kind of begs the question, like, have you ever wondered, like, where the idea of dwarves and elves really came from?
Oh yeah.
Like, buckle up, we're gonna find out.
We're gonna get into all that.
Okay, so picture this: a vast, empty void called Ginnungagap.
Ginnungagap?
Not exactly a name that rolls off the tongue,
Not at all.
but it's basically before,
Yeah.
like the ultimate blank slate.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like the primordial chaos before anything existed. And then within this void, you have two like completely different realms. You've got Muspelheim, which is a realm of fire, and then you've got Niflheim, which is a realm of ice.
Yeah, talk about complete
Or
opposite.
total opposites.
Not exactly the kind of neighbors you want.
No, not at all.
But here's where things get really interesting. Okay, so the melting ice of Niflheim gives rise to Ymir, a primordial giant, and then a giant cosmic cow named Autumnla.
A cow? What?
Yeah, you heard that right, a cow.
All right.
It's crazy.
It's wild, but it's such a striking image, right? I mean, you have this like seemingly ordinary creature that plays like a super crucial role in like the entire creation story.
Hmm.
And so Athumla, she nourished herself by licking these salty ice blocks, and guess what emerged from the blocks?
Don't tell me, like a baby ice giant?
Okay.
Or like a magical ice cream cone or something?
Close, close. It was Buri, the ancestor of all of the gods.
Whoa, okay, hold on.
I said
That's amazing.
it makes you like really wonder, what did the Norse people like see in these everyday things like ice and cows
Right.
that made them associate them with these like hugely powerful beings, you know?
Well, I mean, it definitely makes you think about their connection to nature.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's got to be a huge part of,
Totally.
their belief system.
Right.
But, okay, but let's talk about Ymir for a second. I mean, he's a giant. What happens to him in all of this?
So Buri had a son named Bor,
Right.
and then Bor had 3 sons with a giantess.
Okay.
Odin, Vili, and Ve.
Okay.
These brothers, they weren't really content to just like hang out in the void with the giant. You know what I mean?
Oh, I have a bad feeling about this.
So they took matters into their own hands, literally.
Literally. Okay.
They slew Ymir,
Oh, wow.
and get this, they used his body to create the world.
Okay, that's amazing and slightly disturbing.
It's a little bit of both.
Talk about upcycling.
Right, like his blood became the oceans, his flesh formed the land, his bones turned into mountains, his skull like literally became the sky.
Oh, wow.
Even his eyebrows, they were used to create a wall to protect humans from giants.
Really?
Yeah, so it's this really powerful, maybe a little gruesome
A little bit.
illustration of how the Norse people saw the world as like totally interconnected.
Okay.
Like every element was born from this single source.
And I guess it puts a whole new spin on the phrase, we are all connected.
Totally.
But what about dwarves and elves?
So
Weren't they a part of the Norse world too?
absolutely. So they actually emerged from the decaying flesh of Ymir.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Like even in death, Ymir played this crucial role in shaping the world and like populating it with all these different beings.
Okay, so we've got the world, but what about humans?
Mhm.
Where do we fit into this whole giant turned world scenario?
So the gods weren't done with their creative spree, okay? They found 2 tree trunks,
Okay,
Ask and Embla,
okay.
and from these simple materials, they fashioned the first humans.
So we're basically walking, talking trees.
In a way,
I kind of like that.
it's pretty cool. It's a poetic image.
Yeah.
And each brother played a part in giving humans their unique qualities. So Odin gave them life itself.
Okay.
Vili bestowed intelligence upon them.
Okay.
And Ve gifted them with speech and senses.
So what you're saying is teamwork makes the dream work, even in Norse mythology.
Even in Norse mythology, exactly.
I love it.
The gods recognized that they each had these unique abilities, and that by working together, they could create something truly remarkable.
That's awesome. And speaking of remarkable, I can't forget about those epic realms, Asgard and Midgard. Were those created around this time too?
You bet. So Midgard, the realm of humans, was nestled in the center of the world, and this provided like a safe haven for mankind.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the gods established their own divine realm high above in Asgard, a place of power and splendor,
Of course.
connected to Midgard by the shimmering Bifrost, the Rainbow Bridge.
It all sounds so visually stunning. I can practically see those glittering palaces in Asgard and the bustling life in Midgard below.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing.
It really is like a testament to the imaginative power of the Norse people. They didn't just like create a world.
Yeah.
They created like a whole universe filled with these different realms and beings.
It's incredible. We've gone from a vast empty void to a world teeming with life in just a few minutes. I mean, it makes you appreciate how much Norse mythology packed into a single creation myth.
Totally. And that's just the beginning.
Oh, no.
We've only just met a few of the major players like Odin and his brothers. There's like this whole pantheon of gods and goddesses, each with their own personalities, desires, stories, just waiting to be explored.
I'm excited.
Right.
And explore we shall. But before we dive into the lives and dramas of these powerful beings, let's take a moment to reflect. What stands out to you so far about the Norse creation story?
What's interesting to me is just how much they pack into such a small space. It's just, it's really cool.
Yeah, it is really cool.
I'm excited to keep going.
Me too.
So, we've seen how the world was formed like from chaos and a giant's body.
Right.
But what about the gods who actually shaped it? They weren't exactly sitting back and relaxing once the world was made, were they?
Yeah, I have a feeling godly life wasn't all mead halls and feasts.
No.
Especially with a character like Odin leading the charge.
Right.
The all-father god of wisdom, war, and magic.
Yeah, he's intense.
He sounds intense.
He was incredibly powerful. But, even with all his existing knowledge, Odin constantly sought more. He just had this insatiable thirst for wisdom.
Oh, okay.
And that led him to some pretty extreme lengths.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What did he do? Enroll in an online course? Consult with a wise owl?
Well, in a way, Odin sought out Mimir's Well of Wisdom,
Okay.
located in the land of the giants, Jotunheim.
Yeah.
And this wasn't your average water fountain.
Right.
The well held the secrets of the cosmos, the past, present, and future.
Wow, talk about high stakes. Did he just stroll into giant territory and ask for a sip?
Right?
I'm guessing there was an entrance fee?
There was indeed. And it was a steep one.
Okay.
To drink from the well and gain its knowledge,
Yeah.
Odin had to sacrifice one of his eyes.
Whoa, an eye.
Think about that for a moment. What does that tell us about the Norse view of knowledge and wisdom?
Well, it definitely shows the value they placed on it.
Yeah.
It wasn't something given freely. It demanded sacrifice.
Yeah, for sure.
I wonder if they saw knowledge as a burden as well as a gift.
That's a great point. Knowing too much can be heavy, even for a god.
Right.
And Odin's willingness to pay such a price shows his relentless pursuit of wisdom.
Right.
But it also kind of transforms him into this one-eyed god forever marked by that sacrifice.
Right. It's a huge part of who he is.
Totally.
It makes you think about the sacrifices we make in our own lives.
Yeah.
Maybe not as dramatic as an eye,
Right.
but, the things we're willing to give up for knowledge, for growth.
Absolutely. And that theme of sacrifice really resonates throughout all of Norse mythology.
Yeah.
But as we've learned, the world of the Norse gods, it wasn't exactly a peaceful utopia.
Right.
There were different groups with different priorities.
Okay.
And sometimes those differences led to some major clashes.
Well, it sounds juicy. Tell me more about these godly factions where they're team jerseys and mascots.
Well, maybe not jerseys,
Right.
but definitely distinct personalities.
Okay.
You had the Aesir, led by Odin,
Okay.
a group associated with war, strength, maintaining order.
So Thor with his hammer would be.
Yeah, Thor with his hammer.
Okay.
Even Loki, despite his penchant for mischief,
Right. Yeah.
fell into this group.
So they sound like the enforcers of the cosmic rules.
Yeah, I like that, the enforcers.
Who were they up against?
So the Vanir were the other main group.
Okay.
Deities connected to nature, fertility, prosperity,
Okay.
more focused on the abundance of the earth, cycles of life and death, things like good harvest. Freyr, Freyja, and Njord were some of their key members.
Okay, so we've got the warriors and the rulers versus the nature lovers.
It's a classic showdown.
What sparked the conflict? Was it an argument over who got the best mead hall?
Perhaps something a bit more fundamental than that.
Okay.
The conflict began with the arrival of Gullveig,
Gullveig, okay.
a sorceress with ties to the Vanir.
Okay.
For reasons that remain a bit murky, the Aesir attempted to burn her alive. Not once, but 3 times.
Oh my goodness.
Talk about adding fuel to the fire.
I bet that didn't go over well with Vanir.
Not at all. Golvig survived each time.
Oh, wow.
And this act of aggression just, like, ignited a full-blown war between these 2 factions.
Wow. Can you imagine? It's like the cosmos itself is trembling as these powerful beings clash.
Oh, yeah.
It makes those little disagreements we have down here seem pretty insignificant.
Totally.
So, did this war have a clear winner?
Interestingly, no.
Oh.
It was a long and devastating conflict,
Right.
but neither side could claim true victory. Eventually, they realized that their infighting was weakening them all, and it was threatening the balance of the world.
Oh, that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So did they sign a peace treaty?
Yeah.
Schedule a divine team-building retreat?
Right. Exactly.
They opted for a more practical approach.
Okay.
A truce and a hostage exchange
Okay.
to ensure peace.
Makes sense.
This led to the Vanir being integrated into the larger Norse pantheon,
Okay.
though some tensions likely simmered beneath the surface.
I can imagine those family reunions were pretty awkward after that.
For sure.
But it's interesting to see how this myth kind of mirrors real-world conflicts, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even the most powerful forces need to find ways to coexist,
Right.
even if it means compromise and letting go of old grudges.
That's such a good observation.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that compromise isn't weakness, but a form of strength.
Right.
A way to build a more stable world.
Well, speaking of shaking things up, I can't forget about Loki.
Oh.
What role did that trickster god play in all of this? Was he stirring the pot as usual?
He was definitely never far from the action.
Right.
And his mischievous nature actually led to the creation of some of the most iconic items in Norse mythology.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
It all started, rather surprisingly, with a haircut.
A haircut? That doesn't sound very Loki-like.
I know, right?
I was expecting something more along the lines of unleashing a giant spider or stealing the moon.
Yeah.
Something a little more dramatic.
It gets wild, trust me.
Huh?
In a moment of, shall we say, questionable judgment.
All right.
Loki decided to chop off the beautiful golden hair of Sif, Thor's wife.
Oh, no, he did not.
He did.
That's definitely going to put you on Thor's bad side.
Uh,
I would not want to be around for the fallout from that one.
yeah, Thor was understandably furious.
Yeah.
So to avoid his wrath, Loki hightailed it to the dwarves,
Okay.
those master craftsmen of the Norse world,
Worse.
and begged them to create some magical gifts to appease Thor.
Smart move. What did they come up with?
Okay, so they forged 3 incredible gifts.
Okay.
First, they created new, ever-growing golden hair for Sif,
Okay.
even more beautiful than her original locks.
Pretty impressive. I guess that's one way to make amends. What else did they create?
Next, they forged Gungnir, an unbreakable spear for Odin that never missed its target.
Wow. That's some serious firepower.
Right. It was said to be so perfectly balanced that it could pierce anything.
Okay.
And it became one of Odin's most prized possessions.
That's amazing. What was the third gift? Don't tell me it has something to do with Thor's hammer, Mjolnir.
You guessed it, the dwarves crafted Mjolnir, the legendary hammer capable of leveling mountains and summoning storms.
But wait, didn't Mjolnir have a flaw? Something about a short handle?
Ah, that's where Loki's meddling comes back into play.
Okay.
He just couldn't resist a little sabotage, even when it meant risking Thor's anger again.
Oh, Loki.
While the dwarves were forging Mjolnir, Loki, disguised as a fly, kept biting one of the dwarves.
Oh my.
Distracting him and causing him to, make a mistake.
That sneaky little trickster. So that's why Mjolnir ended up with a short handle.
Exactly.
But it was still incredibly powerful, right?
Oh, absolutely. Some say that the flaw makes it even more interesting,
Right.
showing that even the most powerful objects can have imperfections.
Right.
It's a reminder that true strength isn't about being flawless.
Yeah.
It's about overcoming challenges and making the best of what you have.
That's a great point. But what about Loki? Did Thor finally catch him and teach him a lesson about messing with his family?
Well, Loki was definitely in hot water this time.
Yeah,
But as always, he managed to find a loophole.
of course.
Remember, he's the god of trickery. He
Right.
always has a plan up his sleeve.
Right.
His clever maneuvering and manipulation actually set the stage for some of the most famous tales in Norse mythology.
I bet.
Stories we'll delve into in our next deep dive.
I can't wait. But before we move on, let's take a moment to consider what we've learned about the Norse gods so far. What stands out to you about their personalities their motivations, their struggles.
You know, to me, it's just how human they are. They have these flaws, these desires, they make mistakes, they get into fights.
Right.
But they also have this incredible capacity for love, for loyalty, for bravery.
It's really amazing.
It's really cool, and I think that's why these stories have resonated with people for centuries.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we've made it. We journeyed all the way from the creation of the world, from a giant's body to a war between gods.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey.
It really has. And we even explored the consequences of a trickster god's very bad haircut.
Who knew a haircut could lead to so much trouble?
Right? That's Loki for A. But what a wild ride through Norse mythology this has been.
It's been so fascinating, like unpacking these stories and uncovering the layers of meaning in them. It's really incredible how these like ancient myths continue to like resonate with us even today, you know?
I totally agree.
It offers insights into human nature, the universal struggles that we all face.
Totally. So as we wrap up our deep dives into this excerpt from Norse mythology, creation, gods, and Odin's wisdom, let's just take a moment to reflect on some of the key takeaways. What stood out to you?
One of the most striking things to me about Norse mythology is just its emphasis on like interconnectedness, you know?
Yeah.
From the creation of the world, from Ymir's body to like the complex relationships between the gods and other beings.
Right.
There's this constant reminder that everything is linked.
Right.
Our actions have ripple effects, you know, throughout the cosmos.
Yeah, it's a really powerful message, especially in today's world,
Right.
where it's so easy to feel isolated and disconnected.
Exactly.
The Norse myths remind us that we're all part of something so much bigger than ourselves.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the importance of sacrifice, you know, like exemplified by Odin's quest for wisdom.
Right.
The Norse gods, they weren't afraid to make those difficult choices, to give up something precious in order to gain something even more valuable.
And it really challenges us to think about our own values
Yeah.
and what we're willing to sacrifice for the things that matter most to us.
Totally.
It's not always easy,
No,
but as Odin demonstrates, sometimes the greatest rewards come at a price.
they do. Another crucial theme we've explored is this balance between different forces, order and chaos, war and peace, the Aesir and the Vanir.
Right.
The Norse myths acknowledge that conflict is an inevitable part of life, you know,
Yeah,
even among the gods.
of course.
But they also highlight the importance of finding ways to coexist, to bridge those divides, to strive for harmony.
It's a lesson that's as relevant today as it was centuries ago.
Oh, totally.
In a world that often feels increasingly polarized,
Yeah.
the story of the Aesir and the Vanir just reminds us that we need to find ways to work together,
Yeah.
to compromise,
Right.
to seek common ground.
Exactly. And of course, we can't forget about Loki, that mischievous trickster, always shaking things up.
Of course.
His actions, though often disruptive, also serve as like catalysts for change and growth.
Okay.
He challenges the status quo,
Right.
forces the other gods to adapt, and ultimately keeps things interesting.
Yeah, he really does. He's a reminder that even in the midst of all this order and structure, a little bit of chaos can be a good thing.
It can.
It keeps us on our toes,
Mhm.
forces us to think creatively,
Yeah.
and can even lead to unexpected breakthroughs.
Absolutely. So as we conclude our journey into this excerpt, I encourage you to keep exploring Norse mythology. Delve into the full text of Norse mythology, creation, gods, and Odin's wisdom, and discover the many other captivating stories that make up this rich tapestry of myths and legends.
I love that. And as you continue your exploration, I want you to consider this. What do these myths reveal about the human condition? What timeless truths do they offer about our relationships with each other, with nature, with the powers that shape our world?
These are great questions.
Keep those questions in mind as you dive deeper into this captivating world. Until next time, happy exploring.
Happy exploring.